Hi there, and welcome back to the garden. I'm Eleanor. Before we begin, here's something I want you to do for me down in the comments. Tell me about that one spot in your yard where nothing will grow. You know the one. That bare, shady patch under the big tree, or along the north side of the house, where the grass gave up long ago and it's just sad, thin, patchy dirt that turns to mud every time it rains. Describe yours for me. Because today, we're going to turn that very spot into the prettiest, most peaceful part of your whole yard. Now, I want to start by changing the way you think about shade, because this one shift in mindset makes all the difference. For years, folks treat a shady spot as a problem, something to fight against. They reseed the grass again and again, they pour money into it, and the grass keeps thinning and dying. Because grass simply needs more sun than that spot will ever give it, and every year they're frustrated. But here's the truth the best gardeners know. A shady spot isn't a problem at all. It's an opportunity, and honestly, it's a gift. Because while everyone else keeps failing to grow grass where there isn't enough light, the clever gardener plants the things that genuinely love shade. And shade plants have a lush, cool, serene, woodland beauty that a hot, sunny bed simply cannot match. There is nothing quite like a shady corner overflowing with rich greens, glowing silvers, and soft textures on a hot summer day. It feels like a cool drink of water for your eyes. It becomes the spot everyone gravitates to. So today, I'm sharing 8 beautiful plants that absolutely thrive in shade, the very spots where grass won't grow, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what each one looks like, where to put it, how to care for it, and how to combine them so they look like a professional designed the whole thing. Then I'll finish with a bonus tip that ties the entire shade garden together. Stop fighting your shade, my friend, and start celebrating it. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and if you love an easy, beautiful yard, tap that subscribe button. It truly helps this little channel grow, and it means the world to me. All right, let's bring that shady corner to life. Let's start with the undisputed king of the shade garden, the plant that no shady bed should be without, the hosta. If you've got a shady spot, hostas are your very best friend, full stop. While other plants sulk, stretch, and fade in low light, hostas absolutely revel in it. They are one of the rare plants that take a problem area and turn it into the showpiece of the yard. And the magic is all in those gorgeous leaves. Big, lush, sculptural foliage that comes in an astonishing range. Deep forest greens, cool, dusty blues, bright chartreuse and gold, and beautiful variegated leaves edged or streaked with cream, white, and yellow. Some hostas stay as small as a teacup, tucked sweetly at the front of a bed. Others grow into enormous, dramatic mounds 3 or 4 feet across, with leaves as big as dinner plates. And in mid to late summer, they send up tall stalks of lily-like flowers in white or lavender, some of them wonderfully fragrant, that the hummingbirds love. Here's what makes them so valuable for design. Because hostas come in so many sizes and colors, you can build an entire beautiful shade garden out of hostas alone, just by combining different varieties. A big blue hosta beside a bright golden one with a small white-edged variety at their feet. That contrast of size and color looks rich, layered, and expensive, and it never needs a single flower to look full. They're wonderfully low maintenance too. Give them shade or part shade, soil that holds a little moisture, and a nice layer of mulch, and water them in dry spells. That's truly all they ask. And they come back faithfully every single spring, a little bigger and more impressive each year, for decades. Now let me give you the honest tip, because hostas have one real enemy, and that's slugs and snails, who find those tender leaves absolutely delicious. If you start seeing holes chewed in the leaves, don't panic. A ring of crushed eggshells, a little coarse grit, or some organic slug control around the base does the trick. And the thicker, more textured blue varieties are far more slug-resistant if it's a big problem for you. And here's a lovely bonus. Every few years in spring, you can dig up a big clump and slice it into several pieces, each one a brand new plant. So one hosta becomes a whole shady border for free. Lush, easy, endlessly varied, and unbeatable in shade, the hosta is where every shady garden begins. Now let's prove that shade gardens can flower beautifully with number 2. Number 2 solves the one thing people are convinced they can't have in shade: gorgeous, colorful flowers. Meet the beautiful Astilbe. So many folks believe that a shade garden has to be nothing but green. It's the most common myth there is, and Astilbe shatters it completely. This plant sends up tall, soft, feathery plumes of flowers, like delicate, fluffy clouds or little fireworks, in rich shades of pink, red, white, lavender, peach, and salmon, rising gracefully above mounds of fine, fern-like, deeply cut foliage. And here's something wonderful. In the dim, cool light of a shady bed, those bright, airy plumes seem to almost glow, like little lanterns lighting up the shade. They bring color, softness, height, and a real touch of romance to exactly the place you thought couldn't have any of it. Astilbe blooms through summer, and the show doesn't end when the flowers fade. Those plumes dry to a handsome, rusty bronze and stay attractive right into fall. And even through winter if you leave them standing, giving you interest long after the color is gone. The ferny foliage itself stays lovely all season, and some varieties have leaves that emerge with beautiful bronze or reddish tints. It's a hardy perennial that returns every year, slowly forming fuller, more generous clumps. Now, here is the single most important thing to know about Astilbe, and if you get this one thing right, you'll have spectacular plumes. Astilbe loves moisture. It comes from cool, damp woodland streamsides, and it does not like to dry out. So it's absolutely perfect for a shady spot that stays a little moist, along the north side of the house, near a downspout, beside a low spot that collects water, or under trees where the ground holds some dampness. Give it part to full shade and rich, moist soil with plenty of organic matter, and it will thrive. For design, Astilbe is a dream partner. Plant it in generous groups for a soft drift of color, and combine it with the bold leaves of hostas and the fine texture of ferns. That classic trio of big hosta leaves, airy ferns, and bright Astilbe plumes is one of the most beautiful, professional-looking combinations in all of shade gardening. My tip: mulch around Astilbe to keep those roots cool and damp, and if your spot tends to dry out in summer heat, water it regularly. A thirsty Astilbe will brown at the plume tips and look crispy, and that's almost always a sign it simply needs more water. Divide the clumps every few years in spring to keep them vigorous and blooming their best. Soft, colorful, and made for moist shade, Astilbe proves once and for all that shade gardens can flower beautifully. Now let's bring in the very soul of the woodland with number 3. Number 3 is the very soul of the shade garden, the plant that brings that cool, lush, serene, deep woodland feeling like nothing else can: ferns. There's a reason ferns have flourished in the shady forests of the earth for hundreds of millions of years, long before flowers even existed. They are perfectly, beautifully built for low light. Those graceful, arching fronds bring an elegant texture and a calm, restful green to any shady corner, and there is so much more variety than most people ever realize. Let me tempt you with just a few. There's the Japanese painted fern, with silvery, pewter-toned fronds brushed with burgundy and blue. Absolutely stunning. There's the tall, stately ostrich fern that unfurls into great green shuttlecocks 4 feet high. There's the autumn fern, whose new growth glows coppery orange. There's the dependable, evergreen Christmas fern that stays green right through the winter. And there's the delicate, lacy maidenhair, dancing on wiry black stems. Mix a few of these together, and you create a rich, layered tapestry of greens, silvers, and textures that's endlessly beautiful. Ferns are wonderfully low maintenance and remarkably long-lived. Most want shade, to part shade and moist, rich soil full of organic matter, that classic, cool woodland setting, the same conditions our Astilbe loves. Once they're established in the right spot, they largely take care of themselves, returning faithfully every spring and slowly spreading into lush, full colonies that crowd out weeds. Here's why they're so essential to good design. Ferns are the perfect partner for nearly every other shade plant. That fine, feathery, intricate fern texture, set against the big, bold, smooth leaves of a hosta, is one of the most pleasing contrasts in all of gardening. It's the kind of thoughtful texture pairing that makes a green garden look designed and exciting rather than flat and dull. Use ferns to fill in around shrubs, to soften the edge of a shady path, to weave between your hostas and Astilbe, and to create that deep, layered, magical woodland look. My tip: ferns love moisture and humidity, so a good layer of mulch and consistent water during dry spells will keep them lush and green all season. And here's a designer's secret. Make sure to include a few evergreen types, like the Christmas fern or the autumn fern, so that your shade garden still has living green structure in the winter months when the others have died back. That way, your shady corner never looks completely bare. Graceful, serene, ancient, and made for the shade, ferns are the heart of the woodland garden. Now let's add a bold pop of rich, lasting color with number 4. Number 4 brings something a shade garden so often lacks: bold, lasting color. And the clever thing is, it does it with foliage rather than fleeting flowers, so the color lasts and lasts. Meet coral bells, known to the plant world as Heuchera. What makes coral bells so special is those magnificent leaves. They come in the most jaw-dropping range of colors you can imagine: deep, smoldering burgundy and royal purple, warm caramel, amber and apricot, bright lime green and chartreuse, shimmering silver and pewter, rosy pinks, and even leaves so dark they look nearly black. And many have beautiful ruffled or veined edges that catch the light. Unlike a flower that blooms for a week or two and is gone, that gorgeous leaf color lasts the entire growing season, and in many climates it stays right through winter, since coral bells are evergreen or semi-evergreen. They do also send up airy wands of tiny, delicate bell-shaped flowers in summer. That's where the coral bell's name comes from. And the hummingbirds adore them, but it's really those leaves that are the star of the show. Here's why they're so valuable for design. In a shady bed that's mostly greens, a grouping of deep purple or glowing caramel coral bells adds instant richness, depth, and a real designer's touch. Picture a cluster of dark burgundy Heuchera in front of a bright golden hosta, with ferns behind. That's the kind of sophisticated color combination you see in magazine gardens, and it's so easy to create. The jewel tones make the whole bed look intentional and high-end. Most coral bells are happiest in part shade. That gentle morning sun with afternoon shade or bright dappled light is just right, though many of the newer varieties tolerate more sun or deeper shade, so always check the tag for your particular spot. They like rich, well-drained soil and a layer of mulch, and once established, they're quite drought-tolerant. They're also wonderful in containers, so you can pop a few in a pot on a shady porch for season-long color that never needs deadheading. Now, my honest tip, because coral bells have one little quirk. In climates with cold, freeze-and-thaw winters, the plants can sometimes heave themselves partly up out of the ground as the soil expands and contracts. So each spring, just take a moment to check them, and if any have lifted, gently press them back down and tuck a little soil or mulch around the crown. It takes 10 seconds and keeps them happy. And every 3 or 4 years, dig and divide the clumps to keep them vigorous. And you'll get free new plants in the bargain. Rich, lasting, jewel-toned color for the shade, coral bells are a small plant that makes a big, expensive impression. Now let's bring in some color when you'd least expect it. with number 5. Number 5 is a true treasure of the shade garden, and it earns its place by doing something almost no other plant will dare to do. It blooms in the cold, gray, bleak end of winter when you need a little hope the most, the hellebore, often called the Lenten rose. Let me paint you the picture because it really is magical. It's late winter or very early spring. The garden is still bare and sleeping, the ground is cold. Maybe there's still a dusting of frost or snow. And there, low in your shady bed, are these lovely, nodding, rose-like or cup-shaped flowers in the softest, most sophisticated colors. Blush pinks, creamy whites, deep plums and purples, soft greens, and even slate and near black, many of them freckled and spotted inside like little works of art. To find flowers blooming in the dead of winter, when nothing else dares, feels like a small miracle every single year. And then, once the flowers finally fade in spring, the plant's handsome, leathery, deeply divided evergreen leaves keep your bed looking polished and furnished all the rest of the year. Hellebores are tough, remarkably long-lived, and wonderfully low maintenance. They love part to full shade and rich, well-drained soil, and once established, they're surprisingly drought-tolerant, coping easily with the dry shade under trees where so many plants struggle. The deer and rabbits leave them strictly alone, too, because the foliage isn't to their taste. They slowly form bigger, more generous clumps over the years, and they often self-sow gentle little seedlings around themselves, which you can leave to naturalize or pot up and share. Free plants, year after year. Here's how to use them for the most joy. Because hellebores bloom so early and hold their flowers facing downward and low to the ground, plant them where you'll actually see them up close, right beside a path, by the front door, at the top of a wall, or along the front of a bed you pass every day. That way, you won't miss that precious winter show. Some gardeners even float the cut blooms in a bowl of water indoors to admire them. They look beautiful alongside hostas and ferns, providing evergreen structure and quiet winter interest while the others sleep. My tip, and it's the only real task they ask of you, in late winter, just before the new flowers open, take a moment to trim away any of the old, tattered, weather-beaten leaves from the previous year. It tidies the whole plant and lets those gorgeous, fresh blooms really take center stage. That's it. Do that one small thing. And a hellebore will reward you, faithfully, for decades. Elegant winter color and handsome evergreen leaves all year. The hellebore is a quiet, precious gem of the shade garden. Now let's bring in some old-fashioned romance with number 6. Number 6 is, without a doubt, one of the most charming and romantic plants in all of gardening, and it's made for the shade, the bleeding heart. If you have never seen one in full bloom, oh, you are in for an absolute treat. In mid-spring, this plant sends out long, gracefully arching stems, and dangling from them, in a perfect row, are dozens of little flowers shaped exactly like puffy hearts, usually a soft rosy pink, with a delicate white teardrop tip peeking out the bottom, or in pure, pristine white. They hang there like a string of tiny lockets or jewels trembling in the slightest breeze. It is genuinely enchanting, the kind of plant that stops visitors in their tracks and makes them smile, and it brings a soft, nostalgic, old-fashioned cottage romance to a shady bed like nothing else. Bleeding Heart loves the cool, moist, rich woodland conditions of a shady spot, part to full shade, and soil that stays a little damp. It blooms in spring, putting on its whole beautiful show over several weeks. Now here's the one thing you must know, so it doesn't alarm you. The classic old-fashioned bleeding heart often goes dormant in the heat of summer. After it blooms, as the weather warms, the foliage will yellow and die back, and the plant will seem to disappear completely. This is completely normal and healthy. It is not dying, it is simply taking a summer nap and resting underground until next spring. So the trick is to plant it among hostas or ferns that will grow up and gracefully fill in the gap when it takes its rest. There are also newer fern leaf types that bloom for a much longer stretch and don't disappear if you'd prefer that. It's a hardy, long-lived perennial that returns faithfully every spring, getting a little larger and more beautiful with each passing year. For design, plant it where those arching, dangling flowers can be properly admired, beside a path, near a bench or window where you'll see it often, or at the edge of a shady bed where the stems can arch out gracefully. And remember to pair it with those later emerging plants to cover for its summer dormancy, so you never have a bare patch. My tip? Keep it cool and consistently moist, especially as the weather warms, and you'll stretch that beautiful bloom out as long as possible. And please, don't panic when it yellows and vanishes in summer. I promise you it's just napping, and it will be back, bigger and better, next spring. The one practical thing I'd suggest is to gently mark its spot with a little label or stake, so you don't accidentally dig into it or plant on top of it while it's resting underground. Enchanting, romantic, and shade-loving, the bleeding heart is one of spring's purest delights. Now let's light up the shadows with number 7. Number 7 is a wonderful 2-for-1 beauty that brightens a dark, shady corner with both delicate flowers and absolutely dazzling foliage. Brunnera, sometimes called false forget-me-not. Let me start with the flowers because in spring they're a delight. Brunnera floats up a soft, airy haze of tiny, true blue flowers. They look exactly like forget-me-nots, held on slender stems above the leaves. That clear sky blue is such a rare and precious color in the shade, and the flowers are so dainty and cheerful that they seem to make the whole dim corner sparkle for weeks in spring. But here's the thing, as lovely as those flowers are, they are not even the main event. The real year-round star of this plant is the leaves. The most popular varieties, like the famous Jack Frost and Looking Glass, have large, heart-shaped leaves of shimmering, frosted silver, laced with a fine network of green veins. They genuinely look as though they've been dusted with frost or hammered from pewter. And here is why that matters so very much. In the low light of a shady bed, silver and white foliage shines like a beacon. It catches and reflects what little light there is and lights up the entire dark corner, drawing your eye and making the whole space feel brighter, alive, and more sophisticated. Brunnera is, quite simply, one of the very best plants there is for illuminating a gloomy spot, and that beautiful frosted foliage stays gorgeous from spring all the way to frost, long after the blue flowers are done. Brunnera loves part to full shade and moist, rich soil, once again, those cool woodland conditions. It's a hardy, well-behaved, clump-forming perennial that returns reliably every year and slowly widens into a generous mound, and the deer and rabbits tend to pass it by. For design, use it at the front of a shady bed, edging a woodland path, or tucked anywhere you want that magical silver glow to light things up. It looks absolutely stunning planted next to the deep greens of ferns and the bold blues and golds of hostas. That frosted silver really pops against them and brings the whole composition to life. My tip: keep it consistently moist, especially in warmer climates or brighter spots, to keep that beautiful foliage looking crisp and fresh. If a leaf gets a bit scorched or ragged in summer heat, simply snip it off at the base, and a clean new leaf will grow to replace it. A good layer of mulch helps hold that moisture and keep the roots cool and happy. Glowing silver foliage and sky blue spring flowers. Brunnera lights up the shade like nothing else. Now for our 8th plant, let's add some real size and 4-season backbone with number 8. Number 8 gives your shade garden some real height, presence, and structure, and it delivers not 1 but 4 full seasons of beauty, the magnificent Oakleaf Hydrangea. Now, everything we've talked about so far has been a lower-growing perennial, hostas, ferns, Astilbe, and the rest. and they are wonderful. But a truly great shade garden also needs a shrub or two for height and backbone, something to give the bed structure, and to anchor all those lower plants. And the Oakleaf Hydrangea is, in my opinion, the very best choice for the job. Because unlike many of the fussier hydrangeas that want sun, this one genuinely thrives in shade, and it gives you something beautiful to look at in every single season of the year. Let me walk you through its year because it's spectacular. In early summer, it produces big, elegant, cone-shaped clusters of creamy white flowers that stand upright like candles all over the shrub, and as the weeks pass, they slowly age to the loveliest soft antique pink and rose. Then, in autumn, those large, distinctive oak-shaped leaves, that's where it gets its name, turn the most breathtaking deep colors, rich burgundy, scarlet, crimson, and bronze, giving you brilliant fall color in the shade, which is a rare and wonderful thing. Then the leaves drop, and in winter you're left with beautiful, peeling, cinnamon-colored bark on handsome branches, real winter interest when the garden is bare. And in spring, fresh green growth unfurls, and the whole glorious cycle begins again. 4 seasons of beauty from one tough, shade-loving shrub. That is incredible value. Here's how it fits in your design. The Oakleaf Hydrangea is the anchor of your shade bed. Plant it toward the back or as a centerpiece, and let your hostas, ferns, astilbe, and coral bells fill in beautifully around its feet. It gives the whole composition height and a sense of permanence and structure that the lower plants alone can't provide. It likes part shade. It'll actually take a bit more sun than most of our shade plants if the soil stays reliably moist. But it's perfectly content in dappled or morning light. Give it rich, well-drained soil and a good layer of mulch, and once established, it's an easygoing, long-lived, low-fuss shrub. My tip, and this is the important one with this plant, the Oakleaf Hydrangea blooms on old wood, meaning it sets next year's flower buds in late summer, soon after this year's flowers fade. So if you ever need to prune it for shape, do it only right after it finishes flowering. Never in fall, winter, or spring, or you'll be cutting off all of next year's blooms and wondering where they went. Honestly, though, it needs very little pruning at all. The best thing you can do is simply give it enough room to grow into its naturally beautiful, graceful form, and then just enjoy the show. 4 full seasons of beauty in the shade, the Oakleaf Hydrangea is the perfect anchor for your shady bed. Now let me leave you with one bonus tip that pulls the whole shade garden together. Before we wrap up, here's the bonus, the tip that turns a simple collection of shade plants into a beautiful, cohesive, magical garden that looks like a professional designed it. And it comes in 3 easy parts. Get these 3 things right, and everything we've talked about today will come together beautifully. First, layer your textures. In a shade garden, you don't have a lot of bright flowers doing the work, so foliage and texture become everything. And that's actually a wonderful thing, because it creates such a calm, sophisticated, restful look. The secret is contrast. Combine the big, bold, smooth leaves of a hosta with the fine, feathery fronds of a fern, with the delicate ruffled mounds of coral bells, with the broad heart shapes of Brunnera. That deliberate mix of leaf shapes and sizes is exactly what makes a green-on-green garden look rich and exciting rather than flat and boring. Bold next to fine, big next to small. That's the rhythm of a beautiful shade bed. Second, brighten the dark. A shady corner can read as a little gloomy if you let it, so use lighter colors strategically to lift it and bring it to life. Plant white flowers, silver and frosted foliage, like our Brunnera, glowing chartreuse and gold hostas, and pale variegated leaves throughout the bed. These light tones bounce what little light there is, and they make the whole space feel brighter, more open, and more alive. A few well-placed glowing plants will completely transform a dim corner from dreary to enchanting. And third, finish it with mulch and a path. A nice fresh layer of natural dark mulch does 2 jobs at once. It sets off all that beautiful foliage like a rich, dark frame, and it keeps the soil cool and moist, which every single plant we've discussed today absolutely loves. And then, if the spot is big enough, lay a simple, winding path of stepping stones, gravel, or bark through it. That one touch transforms a bare, useless shady patch into an inviting little woodland retreat, somewhere you'll actually want to walk through, linger in, and escape to on a hot summer afternoon. Do those three things: layer your textures, brighten with light colors, and finish with mulch and a path, and that once bare, sad, shady spot becomes the cool, lush, magical, peaceful heart of your whole garden. The spot everyone loves the most. And there you have it, 8 beautiful plants that thrive exactly where grass won't grow, plus the 3 secrets to tie them all together into a garden you'll treasure. So the next time you look at that bare, shady patch and let out a frustrated sigh, I truly hope you'll see it with new eyes now. Not as a problem to fight, but as the spot with the most potential and the most beauty in your entire yard. So tell me down below, what's the shady spot you're finally going to transform? Remember the one I asked you to describe right at the start of all this? I would genuinely love to hear how you're going to tackle it, and which of these plants you're reaching for first, along with your growing zone, so I can point you in the right direction. Talking through your gardens with you is one of my very favorite things, so don't be shy. And while you're down there in the comments, do go and say a warm, kind hello to another gardener, maybe someone wrestling with the same shady corner as you. This little community we're building is such a joy, and it grows one friendly neighbor at a time. Now, coming up next, we're heading to the complete opposite end of the garden. The hot, sunny, bone-dry spots, where the sun just bakes everything. I'm putting together a video on the best drought-tolerant plants for a beautiful yard that barely needs any watering at all. If you're tired of dragging the hose around all summer, you are going to love it. So make sure you're subscribed with that bell turned on so it lands right in your feed. Until next time, this is Eleanor. Keep your hands in the soil and your heart in the garden. Take care now. Bye. Bye.